Hi, this is module 3.1 for religion and ethics, and let me share with you this PowerPoint presentation as part of our instruction for this module. The last book of the Old Testament was Malachi, and the first book of the New Testament is Matthew. And the gap between those two events or those two writings is approximately 400 years. Within those times, there are no written record of prophetic revelation of God. So the gap or the 400 silent years is referring to this gap in time. Protestant use the term intertestamental period, while the Catholic use the term deuterocanonical period. However, it doesn't mean that during these 400 silent years, time have stopped. There are events around the world that influence the background or influence the setting of the birth of Christ. So the Greco-Roman world. The Greco-Roman world was the context of the birth of Jesus, an empire created by a young conqueror from Macedonia, Alexander the Great. So Alexander the Great dreamt of establishing one great empire, wielding the East and the West by spreading the Greek culture, as the term used, Hellenism, and the Greek language through this empire. So Alexander the Great did not live long to see his dream come true. Alexander the Great died at the young age of 33 in Babylon, and his kingdom was divided among the quarreling generals, the Antagonids in Greece, the Ptolemies in Egypt, the Seleucids in Syria. So this is the picture of Alexander the Great conquest of the known world during that time. From Greece, he reached until the Indus River. And this large empire was divided into three kingdoms later on because of the sudden death of Alexander. But this conquest of Alexander have a lasting effect on the socio-political dynamics of the empire. This picture, on the other hand, was the Empire of Rome at its peak. The large sea in the middle of the Roman Empire is called the Mediterranean Sea, and Mediterranean came from the Roman word medi, meant middle, and terra was their word for land. The Greek culture and language influenced the Jews and had a great impact on their religion. The Hebrew scripture was translated into Greek. As we have learned, it is called the Septuagint, as a result of Hellenization. So the Ptolemies, actually, they are the first one to have domain over Jerusalem or over Judea, the promised land. The Ptolemies are lax and they allow the Jews to live in peace. So the Jews enjoyed considerable degree of autonomy, but they remained passive. In 198 BC, Antiochus II imposed the Greek culture and religion on the Jews. Antiochus II actually was the emperor of Seleucids, because during this time, Jerusalem or the promised land, Israel, is no longer possessed by the Ptolemies of Egypt, but by the Seleucids. So Antiochus II imposed the Greek culture and religion on the Jews. In 167 BC, Antiochus IV strictly enforced Hellenism upon the Jews. He claimed that he was the visible manifestation of Zeus, the chief god of the Greeks, and called himself Epiphanes, the revealer of Zeus, and demanded that the Jews must worship him. So Antiochus IV, or Epiphanes, abolished three important Jewish religion practices: circumcision, reading of the Torah, and Sabbath. And these abolitions of major practice of faith from the Jews have angered them. Remember, the Jews are very sacrilegious, have a very sacrilegious society, and they really hold on to their religious practices. Some priests supported Hellenization, while others, or most of them, condemned it, and as a result, they became angry and crisis arose. The Maccabean Revolt was the result of this rift between the Seleucid, again. The Maccabean Revolt is the result of the rebellion by the priests against the Seleucids because of their strict Hellenization policies. Mattathias actually is the priest of Modin, and he led the first revolt. The Seleucids actually were an empire, and the Jews of Judea was just a small group of individuals. So every time they go to war, they are always outnumbered, but they use the technique of guerrilla fighting, and later on, they succeeded in fighting the Seleucids. When Mattathias died, his son Judas the Maccabees, hence Maccabean Revolt, became the successor. And when he finally conquered Judah in 165 BC, he established the Hasmonean Dynasty. So in 165 BC, Judas the Maccabees successfully marched into Jerusalem and rededicated the temple and restored temple worship. When Judas died, his brother succeeded him, and it became a dynasty ruled by priest kings, where kings are high priests as well. So with this time period, the Jews enjoyed relative independence and autonomy, but soon the descendants of the dynasty quarreled among themselves and civil war broke out. So what they did was they invited the Romans to mediate and stop the civil war. But in 63 BC, Rome marched into Jerusalem, and instead of arbitration, they conquered Jerusalem for themselves. So the Roman general Pompey established the Roman rule in the Promised Land. In 40 BC, the Roman Senate named Herod as king of the Jews, and it was not until 37 BC that Herod finally ascended the throne. When Jesus was born, Herod was the ruling king of Palestine. This is the term or the name used to describe area around Galilee, Judah, and the northern kingdom of Israel. His greatest project actually of Judas was the construction of the temple in Jerusalem. However, even though he was called the Great because he was the one who built a many grandiose structures like theaters, amphitheaters, gymnasiums around Palestine, Herod was actually despised by the ruling Jewish community, because Herod forcefully imposed Hellenism by collecting heavy taxes from the people. Also, Herod was actually ruthless. He executed anyone. He wanted no rival. He even killed his son for mere suspicion of wanting his throne. Herod is also the one who killed the male babies in Jerusalem when Jesus was born. So the Roman period was the environment of Jesus' birth, life, ministry, death, and resurrection. It extended until the conception of Christianity and the beginning of the early church. Many of the followers of Jesus and early Christians were martyred during the rule of Romans in Palestine. So the Greek influence, they brought Hellenism. This is through the efforts of Alexander the Great. They imposed new taste in arts, literature, sculptures, architecture, philosophy, religious beliefs. On the other hand, the Romans were famous for their government, engineering, military tactics, and most especially the Roman security or safety. It is monickered as the Pax Romana, which means the Roman peace. They also excelled in philosophy, religion, equality, and education. So Jesus was born to these Jewish parents in the land we know today as Israel. Although Jesus lived in what was known as the Roman Empire, we have seen that Jesus and his countrymen were not Romans by nationality. Instead, they were Jews. So, one thing that is important for us to understand actually is that without the influence of Hellenism, without the influence of Rome, the more established Roman roads, the Pax Romana, the lingua franca coinage, Christianity would have not progressed and prospered during this time.